Okay, so we're at the start now of 43 and still no war. But maybe I'm more clever this time. And honestly, some of it comes from not focusing. When I was playing, all of it comes from not focusing on the game I'm playing. But a lot of it comes from my experience in the prior game was playing the Western Allies. So I have a feel for them. Not too good because I haven't set up a war situation that they want to get in yet. But I feel like it's a lot harder for me to say, understand how the Soviets can do their war when I thought that they could, do surprise attacks without the surprise bonus. I thought they did not have to do a declaration of war. So at this point, that means, and the problem here is I'm in military reforms, which is where I want to be if I'm declaring war, except that makes it harder to declare war. I take a penalty on my die roll on the actual results. So it's going to be more and more difficult for me to actually get to a war. And I can't go ally with the Western Allies either. Formally, they can never ally in terms of actually like a mutual defense pact or something. It's just unacceptable. So it's very, very difficult for the Soviets to get into this war in an aggressive fashion. That may be something the Germans may have to count on here. Although I've pulled my forces out of Spain, but who knows? The Axis is perfectly happy just cranking away. We're getting tons of victory points. We're up to 10 now. Mainly off the Japanese, but Italy is doing pretty well too, and Germany's not doing that badly. Everybody got one flag. The Russians had to roll in order to not be penalized. Remember, Germany has lost their Knight of Long Knives. No counter for that. That pisses me off a little bit. Almost everything in the game that's a special rule has a counter. And anything that can be voided that has a special rule, that can be voided, and it does not. I grabbed my build points, and except for the German build points, which are actually the most interesting. So if we were going to war, we definitely would want to trigger our special build points, but we don't know, so we're going to probably save those and use those for offensives in the war. I don't really need a lot of points anyway. So what are we at? We're at 2 big build points. That's it. Maybe I do need them. Oh, gosh. I don't know. I got a lot of tanks already and stuff. So I think I'm okay. All right. Okay, and all the builds are in the cup. There's still a few people who haven't gotten their builds all out. Soviets want to upgrade their army for quality. Germans have been worrying about upgrading for quality rather than building their subs. They haven't seen much attempt by the Western Allies to try to get into this war. The US has hopes of being able to attack Japan this turn. And actually, the Western Allies have some vague hopes. They've got a lot of French flags in the cup. I don't know how there's so many. They only start with 2, so they had 1 in reserve, yeah. And there's also, of course, the Soviets are interested in starting war. The Axis are really not trying to start the war here, but they know it's happening. It just maybe not right now. Well, no matter what, Germany's going to burn their flag and try to fix their economics. And they get a 4, which is not good enough. So that goes in there. And this is where it's really hard, is that, like, if you don't want to collapse, you often have to keep expending all of your flags on trying to keep your stability up once you get even just to mobilization. Most of the flags that you get, especially at a point like this where there isn't a lot to provoke anymore. There isn't a lot of room for expansion going on in most of these. The Brits want to do something. Yeah, they want to do the same damn thing. they have to try to get their stability into play. And that's their only flag, so they can't declare war on their own, which means France is currently the one who would have to start the war. Let's get them another die. Hey, they succeed. Does Japan want to do an offensive right now? Yeah, we can wait. Although there is a reason to move into Chahar early, which is the Civil War won't expand into there and make it harder to take. Sure. We get 2 operations off of Civil War. We're going to spend one of them to go into Chahar, and we'll bring the air support with us. I just pushed the air support in at the same time. It's not exactly the same thing. Just to say, if I had more air support from here, I could use that instead. Air support gives me 3 dice. Chahar itself only has 1 die in defense. It's got no terrain bonus or anything. And gosh, I don't think there were any bonuses, which means the Japanese are going to have to lose a ground unit and thereby fail. Oh, which means that I guess they do it again with another army. This time they can't give a bonus, but they do succeed this time. And we'll move back to Hebi after grabbing our cube and our victory point. Maybe what I was thinking was the Russians can use an offensive just to grab something like the Baltic states or Finland. So here's the big question. Do we start the war? We slightly outnumber the Germans here. We can use the advantage of the offensive to get an extra bonus to the dice. I mean, what else are we going to do? And that's kind of the problem. What else are we going to do? We have a flag. We could just hold off a little bit, but then what if we draw an offensive? So yeah, let's try to start the war. We get 2 dice. We're at -1 because we're now in military reforms, and that is a penalty for all political actions. And so we get the expected cube on a declaration of war. And all our flags are in here. So unless something happens, we're not going to war this turn. And we're going to be, maybe attacking Finland or something. Yep. Of course, if we get up to Finland, we can attack Sweden. Unless the Germans want to try to defend that, like they're trying to defend Spain. They're in that kind of ugly position. U.S. has the next opportunity to do something. What would the U.S. like to do? This is an interesting question. I don't actually need to do Lend-Lease. Lend-Lease allows me to form alliances, but I'm set up to attack Japan right now. My chit's not where it shouldn't be. I'm going to try to declare war as well. Oh no, I'm going to try to mobilize. Shit. We don't want to enter the war without, but then the naval treaty's in line. Yeah, why don't I just try to declare war? I don't know what it's going to do. But we've got a lot of offensive chits in there. And we fail. Italy has the next option. Italy has political problems. So we'll use Il Duce to try to solve those. And I do believe he succeeds. Right, there's no penalty there. It's just a low number of dice. Because France, the last option, France has political problems. So they'll roll their one big die. But they do have a +3 on it. Turns out they did not need it. And their stability goes up. So everybody is used to the state of Cold War. And now we're out of trumps. And that doesn't always happen. Sometimes, people have things they want to keep on there. Obviously, when there's resource markers on there, but we get a German area upgrade. And I don't know if we have to watch every draw. Taking Chahar, it's next to Mongolia. Russia should have a flag in there. They couldn't put it in there because they hadn't done their declaration of war attempt. So they do have still a chance of going. Up in France got their home front marker. They succeeded in their die roll. That means they're gung-ho. They've got a flag in the cup. They've moved all their forces in. They're going to try to occupy the Ruhr. See what happens. It's been happening for a while. A lot of reserving going on. But the Brits and the Americans have gotten extra offensive markers. For the Americans, it meant throwing, well, for both cases, it meant throwing their armor chip back in the cup. Now, the British armor chip kind of sucked because it came out and they have no armor. They have no armies that they can upgrade into armor. So not exactly the best thing. Why did they pay for it? Because we're expecting to get into combat this turn, and if they do, maybe they take a loss on an infantry unit, or on an armored unit, and that makes it's very unlikely. Probably the offensive chip was more advantageous to them, but they would have been forced to build it anyway, and maybe twice as well. So it didn't really hurt them to make that decision. I dig that U.S. armor replacement out. I was looking at the carrier that I just, I took a couple carriers. I'm built in my entire Navy, and they drew another offensive and realized, wow, no, actually the U.S. is still in rearmament, not mobilization yet. So I gotta dig that counter out since I can catch that and I can fix it. When I can fix something easily, I try to do it. And I don't do it in all games, but in this, but there's a lot that I can't fix. Didn't have a lot of offensive chits in their cup. And neither does Germany, but whatever, if either side goes to mobilization, that's going to be an issue. I don't know. I don't think either one has any extra flags right now. Russia just picked a flag. They're going to try the declaration of war. This could start the game. The disadvantage is that'll allow Germany to go up to total war from nowhere, from peace. So -1, +1, and we only get 2 dice. And you can see everybody's kind of gearing up for war. They've got their offensives in here. I think we can do it this time. I don't know. And that just gets us a cube, and it's beginning to look like maybe the war's not going to start this turn either. And again, if we get through this turn without a war starting, or without going to global war, as far as I'm concerned, I think that's the game end, just because the counter hasn't been placed. So the world just continues on in peace. Hoping to hell that doesn't happen, actually. I'd really like to show you the mechanisms of war, especially the naval war, which is really kind of intriguing. We've seen, what land combat looks like. We haven't really seen what naval combat looks like. It's not too different, But the naval strategic movement, strategic movement's a strange word for it. The strategic exercise in the Pacific is very, very different than what you're doing in a land war. And it's very alien to me always. Naval warfare is always very alien. So I'm kind of intrigued by it. I always kind of am drawn to it, but I'm so bad at it. Kind of like the rest of this game. There's a very high barrier to entry on this game, in terms of like, you know what it reminds me of? Just to draw a completely ridiculous analogy, trying to go to war in this is about as hard as trying to machinate to get yourself 2 trains in an 18xx game. Except for one thing. Someone is bound to get like a couple trains on some of the companies, a couple permanent trains on some of the companies in an XX game. There's no guarantee that you're going to get to war. Another thing that it reminds me of is getting up to level 1, which is not victory level, and after the Holocaust. It's a hard thing to do. You really have to work really hard, and the luck has to go with you. But, and it's actually kind of closer to that. And you can't go on in the game unless you've done that. Now, of course, you won't finish it, you won't succeed in the game unless you know some secret that people seem to claim to know, but nobody will share it with me, about after the Holocaust, how you can actually get to level 2 legally. I had somebody come back and say, no, it's also, they think it's impossible as well. So I don't know. I've got a couple of conditions. Maybe people are reading the rules differently from how I am. Maybe they've got some kind of modifiers, which is what the person who came back to me said was, well, we just play with these modifiers. And it's like, yeah, well, that's fucking easy. Now you've made it into, you know, any other conquest economic type game. We've pushed through most of the cup. I can kind of let you peek in. I'm not looking, but and nothing's happened. We have a bunch of offensive lines up. The Japanese did not want to spend their flag until something happens, which is notably their home front marker. I guess the most exciting thing is Germany failed a home front test. They're down to unstable now. That means that if they do get invaded and start suffering, they might well just surrender, you know, which could be a problem. The Japanese have an offensive marker that can get them into Hubei. Might as well, I guess. We will spend, because otherwise we're basically throwing it away, or we could get a build. We could build the infantry and the supply base, which wouldn't necessarily be bad. But let's do this. We will take the +1 this time. We could get a triumph off this. That would be nice. Not today, but we do succeed, which is good enough. Hubei has to retreat. It has nowhere to retreat to, so it's defeated. And we're going to fall back to Hebi, but we do get a victory point off the flag. We're up to 12. These are pluses, not times. There's a +20 on the other side. There's a negative on the other side of the ones. You're not going to go above certain amounts of points. This gives me more room if the game goes to the end, you know, in case the war ever starts, more things I can lose. But I can't lose Japan is kind of the big thing. And that's the hard thing to defend in a lot of ways. Because it's just out there, you know. I mean, the depths of China, nobody's going to be able to get into those. That one does not provoke anyone. It provokes the Chinese, but the Chinese are pretty damn angry already. The Japanese are in an interesting position. They know the Americans want to hit them. I can feel in the cup there aren't that many counters. I think I'm going to wait until crisis counters start coming out, but I may well just do a diplomacy on Java or something like that. Try to gain the victory point and the production capabilities. That puts things in an uglier position. Of course, it also provokes Britain, the US, and France, all, which is kind of interesting. Now, if I were truly just Japan and not worried about the fascist overall situation, doing that wouldn't bother me at all, of course, except for, you know, the US is probably going to go to war with me. But I have to also keep in mind, even if I was playing, you know, a 7-player game of it or whatever, what I do can influence events in Europe. If I'm doing aggressive things in Asia, Germany and Italy may pay the price in terms of a war being declared on them or whatever. So, yeah, but I've got to kind of remember, this is sort of the one thing that can be done right now. Everybody's offensives, they don't really want to spend them at this point because they're all gearing up and ready for the war to break. The war hasn't been breaking though, and I don't know. Well, the US has no flags, so they're not declaring war anytime soon. Japan can be pretty certain of that. But they'd want their flag to mobilize if they... So if they go in here, they might cause that war that they wouldn't otherwise cause. And I don't know why I saved the American offensive, except for it is a waste to use it at this point. All I can do, I can buy myself a carrier upgrade, which I think I've got all of them. I think I've built the Navy to its fullest. I could get an armor upgrade. I do have some extra infantry, but it doesn't really need it. So saving the offensive seems more valuable at this point. At least that's, you know, a build. Actually, I can't even pick those up. Right, because America's not in full shape. So yeah, keeping track of who's got flags in the cup at any given time is an important facet to this. So Japan, knowing now, after having gone over and looked at the American flags, that they're not able to do shit. The Russians aren't able to do shit. The Brits aren't able to do shit. We're relying on France to start the war. They're the only ones with a flag in the game. Yeah, that's not going to happen, right? I mean, they haven't even taken a shot at it. But the nice thing is the Japanese got their guns and butter, or their home front marker, which, without a failure. I got to think if I want to redeploy, but I don't think I really do. Protecting the Chinese coastline seems more important. I do need to get more infantry in play, though. I don't have enough on the board, even. And this may well be it. This is the last chance for war, isn't it? France is going to attempt to declare war on... Well, we're only really set up to hit Germany. Doesn't really matter. On Germany. We have all our ducks in a row. England will come in with us. Italy will come in. The whole European war will start if I roll a 5 or 6. I do. Awesome, I guess. So, we're going to be getting all these cubes in the war section here. Those have to be kept distinct from... And they're actually one big pile, but they have to be kept distinct from the alliance piles. Because even if the alliance breaks somehow, that doesn't necessarily mean the war stops. So, I'm going to have to make an attack on the Germans. I get a free operation to do that. There's a number of other things that take place at this point. Let me swap batteries, open the rules to the right place and stuff like that. Allies had to be checked, and they're all in mobilization. They're all capable of joining the war. And they will. Germany and Italy, as the defending powers, each get a flag. Although Italy is sort of declaring war too, they actually get a flag because their ally was attacked. The limited war marker goes up here. And we have not entered. But now we get a single free operation in order to go in. We are going to roll into the Ruhr with 2 tank armies, 2 airplanes. The Germans are going to throw an extra air force in to defend. They're going to use their strategic because it's better. Kind of a weird thought there, but the idea is, I don't know. Maybe they're bombing planes behind the lines, you know, or something. They have more hits, is what it works out to. They're not actually better in combat. So first we do the air combat for this. And we can look here. I don't know, it doesn't say it there. It says it elsewhere. Okay, so each side is going to get 2 dice. Brits and the French. And There's not any augmentations. This is a single free military action. Nobody's at extended range. Nobody's limited supply. Nobody's surprised because the Allies have to declare war. They can't use surprise combat. So now we've taken away the capability of the Germans and Italians to surprise France or Britain unless they get to enter another war. And we're just 2 dice each with lots of planes there. So the Germans get a 5, the French get a 3, the French lose a plane. There are still German planes there, so the French have to leave. Okay, so now the French have 2 dice on attack. The Germans have 3 dice on defense because they have the air power there. However, the French have more tank armies, so they take away a German die. And we're basically at even 2 dice each. Note there's no bonus for the Strategic Air Force. It does not get extra dice or anything. But it does have more hits, which enables it to be good on defense. The French roll a 6, the Germans roll a 5. There are no bonuses. The Germans take a hit. Now, they have the option to retreat, but they choose not to do that. They take the hit. The French have to get out of there because there are still German pieces there, I believe. Let me make sure. I don't think that they... Okay. Let me make sure that I understand who loses. Okay, we have to find... Finding things in this rule book is so damn hard. I'm not sure why. I just have that problem with GMT rule books in general. They're not really horrible, but somehow I can never find anything. And it may have to do with all this color. But in the aftermath, this is where I would expect it. If the only remaining land units are attacker, the attacker conquers the area. Okay. So if any defending units are there after casualties, it is a defensive victory, which means the French tanks go back into the Lorraine, and we did not succeed. And now, all kinds of stuff is opened up. The Allies can't jump in and take the next action, and Germany has to think about this. If they spend their flag, they have now given the Allies an immediate ability to throw another offensive. And that could be problematic, right? We've taken hits here. Our infantry is down to 1. We could lose the Ruhr if we do that. So I think we want to hold off on that. And certainly Japan doesn't want to blow its flag. Russia doesn't want to blow its. For the same reason the Germans can't blow theirs, Italy doesn't want to do its. And of course the Americans are part of the Western Allies, so they can't play one. So this is kind of a dramatic point. Who gets the next action? And it all depends. This could be an action that they really, really want, in which case that's great, whoever draws it. But otherwise, it's probably to the disadvantage of whoever draws it. Well, if it's Soviet, it's to the Allied advantage, perhaps. It is a fascist tank upgrade. And I can't burn it and get rid of it or whatever. It's not terribly useful, but I'm at least at war with France, so playing that is fine. We come back here, and now the Allies can do something. And at this point, I have to make a choice. I cannot invade directly. However, if the Brits burn the Germans might want to go up to mobilization. However, they're in shaky, shaky ground there. They lose a territory, they could end up collapsing. They won't surrender, I think. And there's some possibility of it, but it's low. Wow. So, yeah, let me look up the surrender rules. See See, because even a 1 in 6 chance of Germany surrendering, man, that's pretty nasty. And if they offer an armistice and leave Italy in the war, that's really horrible. So let's see if we can find that. And we flip back and forth. Here we go. Okay, surrender. It's not under the surrender rules. It's down here under collapse, I believe. Because collapse is where you check it first. But I mean, for each neutral or opposing enemy cube in its home area gives you +1. If it has no victory points, you get pluses. Commitment is exhaustion. No. Yeah, so there's a 1 in 6 chance that Germany would surrender for if they lose their R. That scares me. Now, that's assuming they also fail their test. But I can't trigger, and I can't use this. This was, the Italians got their stupid tank. Damn that tank. Why you don't like cubes in the cup sometimes, huh? Whew. All right. So that leaves Britain with the next option without... We're not too worried about Russia if they pick one. Well, if they pick one, Germany can try to get out of the surrender. So Britain can use an offensive to park a boat here and make a landing in Denmark, which sounds kind of appealing to me. Or I could take Libya. I only get 2 actions off an offensive. I don't think Libya is going to be garrisoned anytime soon. So I think this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do naval shit. Imagine that. This is me we're talking about. All right. I'm allowed to only put 1 navy in the North Sea. There'll be a carrier fleet. This is a deployment action, I believe. So I'm able to do other things too, like, whoa, I have too many fleets here. Let's get a fleet down there. I'm sure I could have arranged it at some point. I'm able to put a plane in the North Sea as well. This makes it very, very difficult for, oh, those are both planes. Okay, no, I did not have too many navies. Let's keep this plane here. So let's put a navy and a plane. And Denmark, I have to look elsewhere. Do I have anything else I want to do movement-wise? Probably. I think I can move here, but I can't take. But I don't take the base. That sounds reasonable. Block off the Mediterranean. Note that Gibraltar doesn't block the Mediterranean, but this does, and that comes out of Gibraltar. This is fine in the Central Med. These others, I can't fly through this base, so I can't just block the Aegean the way I'd like to. I mean, that's the thing. I could take Libya and I could like take Crete or something. But I think this is very valuable. And now I'm going to do an invasion of Denmark. Now, these guys are in the UK. Let me look up. Oh, shit, I hope that's not a bird dying here. They keep whacking into my window. The squirrels fall from the air, and I've got a turkey, a baby turkey stuck in a tree back there that lost its parents, was making a racket. It's kind of sad being around so many animals, because anyway, where are we? We're looking for the invasion rules. So this is a land operation. It requires simultaneous expenditure of 2 military actions. I can't do it. I can set up for it like that. Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay. So I can't actually do it. My deployment action can't capture anything, but I do definitely want my fleets there. They will make it difficult for German subs to break out or anything. I think my other... I'm going to advance into Libya. This is not hard. I've got air support, so a third die. The Axis has no units there, so they only get one die, and a -1 because of the armor. Too bad there's no unit there. Well, if there was a unit there, it wouldn't be quite as good. But we're going to try to get something. So we win. Would have been a triumph, probably. Yeah, I would like to take Denmark, but I'm not high enough up to make the jump because of the 2. So I've taken this. I get to regroup. I'll regroup into Malta, I guess. I'm not really sure about that, but it allows me to project my influence a little better than anything else would. And the fascists lose a victory point. That would be the Italians and the fascists. Whereas democracy and Britain each gain 1 for taking that territory. Losing a territory means Italy has to make a stability test, except this is a colonial area, so, and it doesn't have resources, so it's not really a problem. Losing Libya is okay. Mussolini's like, no problem, man. I'm worried about the Balkans. Not that they have stability tests associated with them either. All right, so that was a little bit of the Western European War going. What's next? Well, Britain just went. Here's the problem. If Germany takes their flag and tries to solve their stability problem, France can do their offensive, maybe. Or the US, well, the US doesn't want to. But I think I have to do this. I'm just too worried about losing the Ruhr here. So I get my 3 dice. This is a propaganda action. I'm at +2. And too bad I can't move up more than 1 space if I roll too high. I get a 5 though. And we move all the way back up to wavering. Well, France definitely wants to do their offensive. Russia, the US cannot do anything. Italy cannot do anything. So yeah, France gets to take their offensive. They will get 2 operations off this. Or 2 actions. And shit. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in with the +1 again. We're going to send 2 tanks in. We send a plane in for support, and the Brits send a plane in for support. So now we're at equal air power again. That's 2 dice for each side. No modifiers in air battle. +1 for the French because they augmented. So they get a 7. The Germans get a 4. Close to a double loss. The Germans can lose a plane. Whoa, I shouldn't have retreated the plane. The Germans lose a plane step, and that means there's no air advantage. I screwed it up last time. I think I retreated the French. They would not have had air advantage, though. They would have lost the air advantage because there's more German planes there. But now there's no air support advantage. So we're 2 dice each. Neither side has the air advantage. The French again have the armor advantage though. So they take a die away from the Germans. And they're at +1. This is how triumphs are born. They roll a 7 to a 4. Not good enough. That's only 1 hit on the Germans. If the Germans lose their infantry, they're going to lose the space anyway. So instead, they're going to take it and take their free retreat, falling back. The air units have to go away too. We'll push them back like that. And the French will advance into the Ruhr. We'll put the British plane back out here. I think it can support Denmark from there and attack into Denmark. The Ruhr has fallen to the French. And you can see, you know, it's pretty nasty when you're trying to do the friendly side. Getting hit by an offensive, the threat, either Russia or France was going to do it. I just don't think that there's an easy way for the fascists to win by just sitting quiet. I didn't intend to, at least at the beginning, but my natural predisposition is towards not being violent. Okay, so France gets a victory point. That gives the Allies a victory point. Germany loses a victory point. I got my cube there. This is a German home country, so they have to make a stability check. Good thing I moved up to wavering, right? I can only lose 1 ground here. And I roll a 5, so I'm okay. Okay, that was the French offensive. Now, the Axis could do something. What does Japan think they'd like to do? Well, an invasion of Indochina and possibly Burma, these things are not unreasonable choices and very historical. The only problem is, yeah, no, I can. I could try to get an operation there. I cannot go up to total war with Japan because they're not belligerent. The belligerents can go to total war if they want. Oh God, Italy in total war. Wow. I would get some additional offensives and maybe be able to help my ally. Russia and US can't really use their offensives for what they want. That puts me to the possibility of Il Duce. Does he want to push it to total war? That'll bring a global war. Oh, gosh. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Because he becomes very shaky then. He takes -2 on the home front actions. Have we... Yeah. Let me think about it a little bit. I'll go offline. I'm going to have to swap batteries again anyway. There's a glossary, and it has lots of information in it, which is kind of useful, but it doesn't serve the purpose that I want. What I want is actually more of an index or table of contents than a glossary. And unfortunately, this is great, I guess, because it gives you everything that's alphabetized, but I look for total war because I want to find the rules that cover total war. It's not in here. It's not even in here. I think I would much rather, instead of all these pages that repeat information that's placed elsewhere, which is not in a format that is naturally accessible to me, and it's also in the wrong book, but that's okay. I would rather have a sheet of paper that was just an index of all the stuff. Now, I could make something like that as a play aid, but I'm going to have to flip through the book to try to find the limited war, total war difference. And maybe that won't, here it is. Maybe that won't tell me much, right? Well, first thing I have to do to find that is I know, and if I didn't remember this, I wouldn't know it, but I know it's under the commitment. Now, that's what I'm trying to do. Can I go up to total war? Well, somewhere or another, there are restrictions on being able to go up to total war. That doesn't seem to be here under commitment, but it may be under the increased commitment action. And this is why this rule book is impossible for me, because maybe I have things that lead me from place to place, but they're not quickly apparent. There's a lot of words and a lot of bullet points and shit like that. So now I'm in the increasing commitment. It's automatically effective. It's belligerent, or the game status is global war. Yeah, okay, so we can automatically do it. We will do that. I don't know if this provokes anyone, because Britain and France are both already at war. It's a provocation, so we got to go look that up. Obviously, if we were at peace, it wouldn't be a provocation, but I'm not sure that provocations exist. They only count if the powers are opposing but not enemy powers. So going up to total war, and I've still got this flipped over. It was not just on this turn, it was done before. Going up to total war does not give the Brits and the French anything on Italy, which is kind of cool. But it does give the Italians more troops, and it's going to give me some offensives as well, because I get one for free, and if I spend Rome, I get another one. Now, if I wait till next turn, I get the one from Rome, and I get a build point from Rome as well, because you're going to get free offensives once you're belligerent, based on your status. So I may want to hold off on that, or I may need it for my initial offensives right now. Not sure. Is Russia coming in or not? We are going to be provoking Russia. Or no, we're not. Because Russia doesn't care about Italy, even though they sure should right now. Problems with the mobilization situation is that, yeah, I have my available force pool here. I have these counters available. I know what's here. I don't know what's at the cup. Now, I have enough information I could calculate what's in the cup by paging through the rules and everything, but I don't know what I don't have, basically, in the game. And I was finding that to be a real problem. You're not allowed to inspect the cup for good reason. There's a certain surprise effect. Some of it, now, it's hidden trackable information. So some people I know, including the place where I'm playing, most of the group there would be, I think, usually of the nature of, oh, hidden trackable information. Yeah, you can always look at that. Well, I understand what the cup does in keeping it hidden, and I like that facet a lot. I like hidden trackable information, not because, oh, I have a great memory. Actually, it's because I have a shitty memory, and it means that I understand the surprise value of that, right? And then if I'm tracking that information on a piece of paper or something, I'm cheating as far as I'm concerned. If I have an eidetic memory, though, obviously the game, becomes skewed in my favor, and I don't really like necessarily that memory is a huge factor. But you know what? It's a factor in a game like Bridge, right? Why not in this? I don't know. So my attempts to figure out what I have are going to be based only on the information of what I can build. So like, I don't think I have an air upgrade. So I probably want to grab that air upgrade, but maybe I don't. Maybe bombing resources isn't, maybe the strategic bombing and the upgrade of planes isn't that important to me. I already have my tank upgrade. I don't think I'm going to be able to challenge France and Britain in the Mediterranean. So I'm going to concentrate on ground forces. I kind of lied. I meant including air. I do want that air upgrade. I think that increases my force pool capacity a lot more than anything else does, although it's more expensive than, say, just adding another air unit would be. But I don't have a lot of ground to cover here. Okay. So now, what about my commitments? How much do I want? I get one for free, which I can put in my reserve box. But do I want that other one? Do I want to get a commitment by expending the Rome space? There aren't a lot of things left in the cup. That much I can know, depending on how you play the cup. So there's two ways that I can see of playing the cup. One is whoever played the last event makes the next draw. I kind of like that one. Because it lets everybody have some idea how many chits there are. There are not a lot of chits. There's like 4 chits in the cup right now. And the fascist player actually may have made the last draw for all I know. They trumped in after the French trumped in. But I know there's not a lot of chits in there. And many of them are crises, which means we're probably going to run through the turn like that, except for what's there. So I think I do not want to expend it because I'm going to be getting it very shortly. Plus, I would like to stretch this now. I just did something. I just went up to total war. Maybe I don't want to do that. I'll tell you why. Because if I don't do that, this is the last turn of the game. Except somebody else is going to do it. And by doing it here, I make this the last turn of the game. So we'll put the global war marker there, because it's 2 turns out from the turn where total war was declared. I really don't want the game to extend out to here. I've got a lot of victory points on the board. They have some capability to remain on the board unless massive surrenders are happening. Okay. So, yes, we will do that. Did we provoke anyone? Yes. No. Maybe. Let me make sure that we didn't get any provocations for anything else. These just affect... Yeah. It's operations and stuff like that can cause problems. So like if we're getting close to the Russians in Germany with the French, we might be provoking them. But, all right. After the mobilization, up to total war, and now we're at a -2 on our home front markers, but we got rid of this turn's marker. We got to go through 2 more though. And we're wavering. Okay. That means a non-fascist power is allowed to go. None of them have something that they can really do at this point. The U.S. is wishing that it had been able to engineer an alliance with the Brits, but they honestly didn't have the time. There's a lot of game gone by, but they had to get rid of Lend-Lease and have another flag for the Brits. And that's one thing with the friendly Axis type scenario. It doesn't generate as many flags as a historical, a more aggressive position out in Europe would. That pretty much pushes the Axis into an ugly position. Of course, you can see the cost. Germany's invaded. Germany's surrounded by nasties. They may well fall. And if Germany and Italy both fall, the game ends. Which may end up in a victory due to Japanese cubes, because they have 6 cubes. Something the Allies have to keep in mind. 6 cubes is more than democracy or communism has right now. Now, obviously, if they capture Germany, they're going to get more cubes. So that means we're drawing. And we draw a U.S. offensive, which is definitely not what we wanted for anyone. What can I do with an offensive? Bloody little. I'm still bounded by the naval treaty. I'm going to be the one breaking it with a declaration of war. That's the advantage of Japan never breaking that. I'm not sure what the game is like. If the Japanese try to do historical things, I have no idea how that plays out. I'm afraid of doing navies, so I try to keep status quo when it doesn't look like a bad choice, and so far it has not. In this game. In the previous game, it did cause problems. What can I fucking do with it? I think the answer is nothing. I can burn it. And that means we could do something with the Italians. The Italian offensive. Okay. We get 3 operations off this offensive. What do we want to do with them? Well, we love to take the French there. And we can. Why the hell not? Now, we could drag German units with us and bring those German infantry in as well, as long as we're operating there. I don't know that that's necessary. We're going to invade with the... Okay, that's one operation. I think if we could get into Lorraine, we could cut these guys. No, because they have sea supply coming through because the Brits are controlling the ocean there. So, yeah, taking Lorraine isn't that valuable. So I am going, with my 3 chits, we go in. Do we want 2 bonuses or not? So here's the thing. We could take Paris, which would be bloody damaging to the French. They'd have no resources then. We could spend a chit to bring the German army in. I don't think that's wise. We can spend a chit. Each one has its own special ability to get a +1 on the combat here. And then we bring our support in, which we will bring the Germans in for support as well. Give us more of a chance of getting the air power. We're not dealing with the navies at all. They are only involved in naval combat. So, what do? We will be getting our air power. We'll be getting 2 dice. The Allies do not have any planes within easy... Oh, yes, they do. Oops, wasn't counting on that. All right, but we do have a +1 to the die roll, and we have an extra chit, which means we can do something else afterwards. So the Axis rolls a 6, the Allies roll a 3. That's 2 to 1. We're causing 2 hits to the Allies. 2 hits will not get rid of all the planes, but it will give us superiority. So the Allies are going to retreat. The Brits to here. We will we can't go there if we retreat. If we take the hit on the Brits and we retreat them, they have to go somewhere else. But they can actually go to Paris for all I care. I'm not sure I want 2 counters then. You know what? We'll take the hit on the French. The Brits will retreat to Paris. That gives me more air power there. It doesn't look to me like the Italians are making a naval. So I was able to reduce the hits. This is not a triumph. I didn't wipe the enemy out, for one thing. But air attacks never end up as triumphs. Now, I've got 1 tank versus 1 tank. So we each get 2 dice for that. The Axis gets an extra die for ground support for the air units. Nobody loses dice because this is nasty terrain, but the Axis gets a -1, but they have a +1 to counteract it because they spend an augmentation action. And I may have made a mistake. I may have, not a mistake, but I may have erred. Maybe I should have put 2 augmentations in with this because I end up losing the battle. I'm allowed to retreat without any pain though, which makes it not too terrible. I have 1 operation left. What am I doing with that? Well, I could spend it for builds, and I don't get the 3 builds. I can spend it for a build and throw an extra infantry into the cup. That would help make up, but I've got tons of builds available next turn. Maybe not enough, but I could try to bash my head in there again. I could try to do a base capture. That would conceivably cut supplies. Problem is, they've got supply off the Arabian Sea, which connects back here. Yeah, you know, cutting Egypt out of supply, pretty impossible. Cutting Libya out of supply, very easy. The reason the Italians don't want to go into Africa. Yeah, I don't know what to do. I really screwed up. I should have taken that extra +1 because now things don't look good at all. If I redeploy, that doesn't really help me much. I don't think the French are doing an offensive here, and it weakens my position against the Soviets. I could throw support into the Hungarian Civil War. Who knows? That may be the best thing I can do, but I think instead I'm going to take a build and throw it into the cup. I think it's my best option. All right, the Germans just went or the Italian Axis just went, nobody there wants to do anything. Second crisis. Now we'll roll this one out because, hey. 5-2. Political crisis. Military agitation. Reduce Japan's effectiveness by 1 until end of the turn. Well, that kind of sucks. Luckily, it's so late in the turn that it has very little effect. Of course, if there was a home front counter in there or something. Anybody could go. This is not the time to blow a Japanese flag. So nobody does. We get some Italian infantry. Put into play there. We get the third crisis. (3-2) more civil wars. 4-3. That's Greece. Interesting stuff's happening. Nothing we really want to get too involved in, but interesting stuff. We're down to 2 counters here, and we draw the wrong one, which means France gets their tank upgrade over here. There's nothing to resolve because the cup's empty, so these go back. The US couldn't start a war. And I think that's it for the turn. Civil War, home front, flags, offenses, move, reserve back, commitment. Yeah, we got a couple little cleanup things to do. The Italians in total war, the only ones in total war. Awesome. And yeah, we move to another turn. And all this crap goes back in the cup. And we only got 2 more turns left, max. The game would have ended here if we had never managed to go to global war, but I think the Italian choice was the right one to put global war in this space. Nobody else could have done it. But whatever. Okay, let's send this up. At least we got to a war. Doesn't feel much like World War II with France charging in, Italy trying to slap through the south with Spain. But as the game says, it creates a World War II, a Second World War. How guaranteed is it? I think, I don't know. The French had to, it was one French flag that allowed the war to start here. Otherwise, maybe we get in a position where we can't orchestrate a war to start with Russia, with the Western allies, and the fascists just win through a peaceful game, which would be kind of interesting. But at least we do get to see the war mechanisms in play on the ground war. Maybe someday. So one of the interesting things is, other than the fact that the fascists here are losing victory points, there's not a lot of reason for the Japanese to provoke the Americans. And there's not a lot Germany's going to do to provoke the Americans. I mean, unless they beat Britain or something. What the Americans can do, though, is that if they had enough flags and they can get Lend-Lease into play, no, not Lend-Lease. Wait, they have fucking Lend-Lease. They have Lend-Lease in play. So if they can get an alliance with the Brits, they can come in and start wiping out, start helping against the Germans and the Italians. Is that what we want, though? Or do we want to keep trying to focus on getting them into the war with Japan? Because right now, Japan's sitting on a lot of victory points, and the Allies seem to have enough forces to handle what they're doing. And Russia's trying to come in against Germany. And we want to make sure we get more victory points. The problem there is, though, This is not an easy place to get victory points. You need to really plow in, and Japan's fairly well defended. Unless I can take Japan itself out, I don't think that I can get a victory out of, and Japan includes Korea. I don't think that I can get a victory out of just smacking them around very easily. So I don't know. We're going to see these things fired off. And here's another reason why I probably wanted to use the Ruhr. It was exposed. You know, it's one of the dangers. Now France gets to use it. Great.